we're going to have a conversation with some experts. We've brought two tourism experts from Nigeria and Ghana. We have one of ours who is a Nigerian Ghanaian, or do we say Ghanaian Nigerian, whichever we want to put it. His name is George Kobina Edah. He's a tourism consultant and media personality. He's joining us all the way from Cape Coast in Ghana. Mipacho Akwaba.
Madasi, thank you. And a carrot to everyone
Okay.
listening to me in Lagos Talk 91.3.
Thank you so much for making our time to be part of this show. And we also have one of our own. He's been on this show before. He is one of those that are milking the tourism sector dry. When you talk of people that are making huge money in tourism, he's one of them. I'm not saying this to flag FIRS, but we're just saying that he's one of those that is making us proud as a Nigerian when it comes to tourism. His name is Adéwùmí Fábárebọ, and he's joining us this morning as well. Good morning to you, Adéwùmí.
Good morning. And the idea of milking dry, it means that we must be making billions in dollars. So if we are milking dry for real. Please, so don't cast us. So we are just doing a little bit to make African tourism work. So we are running a social enterprise. Just believe that.
Really?
Believe
A social enterprise. All right. That works. That works. So we've got the show started right now. And both of you, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you join us today. It's a pleasure to have you making our time this morning from your busy schedule to be part of the show. So now, having said that, I don't know if you heard the clip that I played, the voice of the Minister for Arts, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy, where she said their target is to create 2 million jobs. So I understand. Let's start with Adéwùmí Fábárebọ. You are in the sector. You know the potential of Nigeria. Creating 2 million jobs in this economy, is it a reality, or are we just being delusional?
it's not possible under the current setup. And what do I mean by under the current setup? The current setup is challenged. And by challenged, we're talking security. We're talking our constructs, our story constructs. And what do I mean by those two things? Security is very important. We can see that. We barely even do trips within Nigeria because an average Nigerian is asking the question, are we safe? You understand? Let me not dwell too much on that. Maybe later we can talk about it. But the other part is the construct, our story constructs. What is our story out there? Kigali, Rwanda spent a lot of money branding National Shared Visit Rwanda. You know, Ghana as a country, I've been there like 1 million times. I probably am Ghanaian by virtue of visits right now. They have stories to tell. The other speaker is in Cape Coast. Cape Coast is a land of stories, from the Elmina Castle to the Cape Coast Castle. Even Cape Coast in itself is a living story. You're seeing buildings from 1800s where there is a story at every corner. Do we have that in Nigeria? Most of buildings like that, we turn them to skyscrapers on the island. You know, so right now we don't even have two things. What is our story out there? One. Then the second part is, even are we preserving our stories in here? If we don't do that, then what do people want to come and see? Is it just Dirty December? Dirty December is not enough to bring us 2 million jobs. No, not at all. But we need to get stories. And one last thing I'll also mention is, look at what Benin Republic did just of recent, 2022, the Amazon statue. A lot of people we carry on tours always say, I want to see the Amazon statue, I want to see or maybe the graffiti wall. Little things like that have a way of pulling touristic value. What do we have in Lagos? Okay, maybe we have the bridge connecting the mainland and the island, the new bridge. What are our signature? What are the things that speak to our history, our culture, our lifestyle? We do not have that spread across Lagos, for one, let alone the Nigeria as a whole. So, yes, we can if we are serious. But as the current setup is, I don't believe that's possible.
Okay, and let's go to Ghana, and I don't know, maybe we'll start with figures if you have them available with you there. Approximately, what is the number of tourists that come to to Ghana annually? And beyond that, how do you move from where we are to 2 million jobs? I mean, the little you know about Nigeria, first, maybe you should even look at that. Can Nigeria ever get or create 2 million jobs around the tourism industry?
First of all, thank you again, Kayode. It's a straightforward thing. Can it be done? The answer to that is a capital Y-E-S. Yes. The modalities, the roadmap, is where the question is, and I think that that's what my brother was alluding to. You had asked a practical question in the beginning, which is, what is the timeline? Even though we're not investigating that. The theoretical aspect of it is just to say what you want to do. But what are you putting in place? What are the critical milestones that you want to go through to be able to achieve that? And I think that in there lies the fundamental truth of whether you can achieve or you can't achieve. If we wanted to take, for example, Ghana's year of return as a classical example of what we are talking about. First of all, there was somebody who was deliberate. Deliberacy means that they knew what time it was, they understood the season that we were in, and for which reason a campaign, or for want of a better, if you want to go into marketing, a brand story made sense. It was 400 years after slavery. Somebody knew that there was a quote unquote prophecy that after 400 years, people of African descent that were taken out of Africa will begin to return. And so what did Ghana do? Ghana plugged into a season that was ready to be harvested. Did Ghana harvest it enough? That's a different debate for some of us, because we debate that all the time. However, I think from the Nigerian point, does Nigeria have the resources? Does Nigeria have the infrastructure? Does Nigeria have the things that people want to see? My answer to that is a 50% yes. Because there are places in Nigeria that people can visit. The question is, are we packaging them enough for them to have stories that can be told, that it is enough to engage people's interest, that will make people want to come in there? And you break that into three different areas: the government, the private sector, and the community in which you want to operate. One of my biggest challenge, and when I listen to the ministers speaking, one of my biggest challenge, and it's the same thing that I have with Ghana, is that the first thing we talk about is money. It's a revenue generator, it's a revenue generator. I think that that language must change, because with all the revenue that is generated, the impact is very little. It is some key individuals that get that revenue. So can we change the language to say, we are doing this to create impact. We are doing this to transform the community in which the tourism activity itself happens. And for me, then that begins to open the door, or for another want of a better expression, the window through which that 2 million jobs can be created. But if the focus is just the money, no 2 million jobs will be created. Billions will be created in terms of money, but you don't feel it at the end, which is the community. And any tourism activity, any tourism business that does not transform the local community is a failure for me than anything else. So this would be my first introduction, Kayode.
Wow. Okay. So what I hear from both of you is that it is possible. However, there are steps to be taken, and not the usual talk shop that we have, not the promises of creating, because you remember, Adéwùmí, remember this, in 2023 when the president came into office, he said he wanted to create a $1 billion economy. I don't know if we are seeing the steps being taken to create that $1 billion economy, or it's still just you know, the normal talk. You know, we see the tax reform coming up, and maybe that again ties into what Judge Kobina Edah was saying, that a lot of times government will speak, but what they say, does it translate to the people? Do the people experience that impact? Because if you're saying you're changing a $1 billion or you're creating a $1 billion economy, and the banks are being charged more or they are paying more, you are getting in more money, and there's more money, you know, being used for business, but how does it affect the people? So you said something, Kobina Edah, and what you said is that we need to ensure that these developments actually reach the grassroots, the people. So let's go back to that statement that you made. If you're looking at having a people-centered, employment-driven tourism movement, what are the things that Nigeria should do? And maybe I should put this in perspective, that the figure I have here is from 2022, and it says a total of 528,000 tourists arrived in Nigeria. So I know I've asked you one question, but okay, let's backtrack a bit. Beyond how do we ensure that this gets to the grassroots? For one, to create 2 million jobs around tourism, and for better understanding, we're talking of a system. The ministry is called Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. So all boxed in one. I tie it up to tourism because when your artists are going out there, it's tourism. You're marketing the nation, letting them know this country exists, and you know the likes of the video and have brought in a lot of people. But if we are talking of 2 million jobs, what are those jobs that can be created around tourism or the creative economy? Kobina Edah.
Thank you again. And I think that that's pretty straightforward. UNWTO states that 1 out of every 10 jobs that is created is within the space of tourism. So already
1 out of every 10 jobs.
10 jobs globally created is within the tourism domain. And so that gives us a certain angle to come in from. In other words, if we limit it to Nigeria, and I want to borrow the same statement, which doesn't necessarily mean true in the case of Nigeria, but I want to borrow it just to create my presentation, is that 1 out of every 10 jobs in Nigeria that is created today, 10 jobs that are created, 1 of it is in tourism. Now, I even would want to expand that to say that it goes beyond 1. If you take the ministry, it is arts, culture, tourism, creative economy.
Yeah.
Okay. So the arts can create a job 1 today. Culture can create 1 job today. Tourism in its primary state can create 1 job today. Creative arts can create 1 job today. So in other words, hypothetically speaking, in Nigeria, 4 jobs can be created by the ministry if there was an intentional approach to it. One of the biggest exports that Nigeria has as we speak, without going to the traditional export, is music. I mean, the other day I had Akon saying he was one of those who helped create Afrobeat, and I laughed my head out. I was rolling on the floor. Okay, music alone could create a third, or let's say a quarter of that 2 million jobs. The question is, how are we doing it? We have Oduduwa, Badagry, Oshobo. Are we packaging each one of this to be able to speak a brand story? One of the biggest challenges that I had in Ghana here with tourism, when expansion of tourism started, and I wrote 1 or 2 articles about it, was that Ghana was replicating. Cape Coast is known for the Kaku National Park, and then the Cape Coast Castle Dungeon, and that in Elmina. What we started doing, for me, that was wrong, was that we started creating the canopy walkway, which is the unique thing at the Kapu National Park, in 2 other places. And so I say to myself, when a tourist comes and wants to come to Cape Coast, you've created one in Volta region and one somewhere else. All they need to do now is say, I'm not going to Cape Coast, I'm going to Volta region, and go do the canopy walkway. And then he comes back to Accra, and then he's out of the country. But if we use something that Nigeria used when I was young and growing up in Nigeria, which is every number plate of a car had a unique statement of each state, I won't forget that. You know, can we build tourism from that angle? Can we say when you go to Delta State, what is unique about the people, the community, the culture of the people that exist in Delta State, and build that as a tourism package out of Delta State? When you go, therefore, to another state, for example, then you build based on what is there. Don't look at what is elsewhere. Import nothing. See, tourism that is natural, unique, and authentic to the people of a community is the magic. I learned of, I think it's Kenya, I can't remember where they have a monkey sanctuary. Every tourist that comes, as a standard for you to visit that monkey sanctuary, you must adopt, listen to the word, you're not adopting a human being, you're adopting a monkey. And
Wow.
by the law
and what do you do with that adopted child?
That's what I'm coming into. By the law of that adoption, you have to make either monthly or quarterly remittances for the care of that monkey. And you're only allowed to visit that monkey once in a year. You're supposed to call every month to check on the well-being and the welfare of the monkey you've adopted. That sounds very crazy. It just doesn't fit. But they package, this is monkeys. Now, human beings are so excited to adopt African monkeys.
Do Africans also adopt monkeys? I'm sure this will be more Caucasian.
But you see, the point is, it has been packaged. And I'm saying that Nigeria has too many things that can be repackaged, rebranded for tourism. I grew up in that land. I know what that land has. And so we need to take it beyond the rhetoric and begin to look at 2 million jobs is nothing to create. But the question is, can we do it sustainably? Can we do it so that there's transformation in local communities? Or we're just talking about it to make, like Ghana, $3.3 billion in the year of return? And that is the key question. That needs
so for emphasis, year of return happened, was it in 2017 or when was it? No, was it thereabout?
4 years we did Beyond the Return, and the next 4 years. So within the 8 years, we've done Year of Return and Beyond the Return.
Yeah, and you made $3 billion just from that tourism activity.
From that tourism activity.
And I remember it put Ghana on the map then, because you had a lot of all the celebrities coming down, the Steven Seagal, the actors and actresses, Hollywood actors and actresses, and some made Ghana home eventually.
Yes, let me just put it straight. It's 3.3 billion in revenue, about 1 million plus tourists in 2019 alone. Okay, thousands of direct and indirect jobs were created. We didn't even have hotels to accommodate this. Okay, that industry started charging astronomical, rates for hotels. If you didn't book 3 months, see, there are festivals. There are festivals in Ghana. So in Cape Coast where I am, there's something called the Afeshe Festival, which is a traditional festival of the people of Afeshe. Now, if you don't book hotels 3 months ahead, you probably don't have a place to stay.
Wow.
The same thing for the biggest Pan-African festival, which is Panafest. Okay, now Panafest gave birth to the Year of Return and Beyond the Return. Places are booked. There's nowhere to stay. Ghana is beginning to focus on its own tradition. It's like the Vundum Festival in the land of Benin. During the Vundum Festival, it is crazy.
All
The
right.
point
So,
is
mhm.
packaging what you have. Forget about the skyscrapers and all of these things. Package what you have. People want authentic. There's a guy in Ivory Coast, and let me say this and I'll end here. There's a guy in Ivory Coast, unfortunately, a Westerner, who came into Ivory Coast, lived somewhere close by a river, right?
Yes.
When plastic waste was an issue, he turned plastic waste, joined them together, and started building floating rooms.
Floating
Today, the
room.
guy floating rooms on this lake, right? Now he's built them that they are on it. He used bottled water, empty bottled water plastics. He charges
Yeah.
up to $300 a night. And the Westerners, the Caucasians are crazier about it. That
Just to
impact
sleep on water.
changed, I'm telling you, on plastic.
Plastic bottled water.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. Tourism could be crazy at times. I just don't understand it. But I see Adéwùmí is laughing there. But let's bring you in, Adéwùmí. Now, with what Kobina Edah says, he said a lot about packaging Nigeria, putting Nigeria on the map, getting things right. But in your view, how should we even start? Because do we focus on domestic tourism or do we focus on international tourism? What do we rebrand? What are the likely things we can brand in Nigeria to put us on that platform?
Okay, a quick one. I want to say that it's great that you may think of repackaging, rebranding, and all of that, but it starts with local adoption. The
Hmm.
communities have to adopt this initiative. And I'll give you an example. Ile-Ife is
Yes.
a place that is loaded with culture and tradition. Now, do you know that Oduduwa's house still exists in Ife?
Okay.
Oduduwa, the
Okay.
house Songo
Yeah.
lived, is still in Ile-Ife. Do you know
Okay.
Ile-Ife has a wall like the wall you have at the Benin Empire?
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of this exists, but the road that leads to those places are horrible. Now, recently they renovated the Oromiyan Star. So the place is looking a lot better now. But we got there, and guess what these men were asking for? Bottle of schnapps.
Have you come to see the
We took
gods
people.
or have you come for tourism?
We came for tourism, but irrespective, I would easily have paid 2,000 per head. Multiplied by the number of people there, they would have easily made maybe 20,000 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody just there to tell us the stories. But here they were
Yes.
asking us, we did not bring bottle of Shinap for 3,000 naira.
And
Now, we
that's
went
what
to
that's why I'm
Moremi.
asking that. So were you there to
No,
see
for
the
tourism, for
gods?
tourism. No, for
Okay.
tourism, for
Not that you
tourism.
had one problem you needed the gods to attend
No,
to.
no, 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 no.
Okay.
We're not there
Just
to
wanted to
see
be sure.
Oromio. We just
Okay.
wanted to. same thing, same thing happened when we went to the Moremi statue. At Moremi statue, the same thing. Of course, access was free, but they were saying, I'm just saying this. We can't just come that way. We should have brought something for the god, meaning Shina.
Mm.
Now, my problem here is this. These are places built by government, managed by local communities, and they cannot even see the potential in it. Now, Ile-Ife, you can tour Ife for 1 week and you will not exhaust the history in Ife. But
Oh,
nobody
really?
seems to care. You cannot exhaust the history in Ife. If I want to go on and on. Now, Nigeria has the only suspended lake in Africa. There are only two in the world. Nigeria has one of them. The Adó-Àwáyé suspended lake.
Okay.
Nobody's telling that story. Now, the staircase to Adó-Àwáyé, when I was there about some 3-4 years back, horrible staircase. Just to even make a proper staircase is challenging. How much did we pay at the ground? I think maybe 1,000 there or something. My point is this. There is some, okay, now, Ikogosi recently got renovated. The warm
Mm.
spring, all of that,
Yeah.
the resort. But there is a waterfall very close to Ikogosi called Arita Waterfall. The first time we were in Ikogosi, we drove into Arita, we just drove in. The gates were not even toilet. The place was looking very.
Nobody valued it.
We went in and came out, nothing. The second time we went in, we met an old man who said, "Oh, you will pay something." It was just so disorderly and scattered. Now, these are places built by government, managed by the people. Now, so at the end of the day, my point here is this. The government can go on and throwing money around into tourism. It would require proper management to really connect with making resource or making these stories stick. Cape Coast Castle and Elmina Castle are well managed. That is why people are still going there. Some people might question how well managed, but they are way better managed than most of the things we have around here in Nigeria. Now, does that mean we don't have well managed historic artifacts? Of course, we do have some. But my point here is this: even the local communities have to begin to adopt this site. So even without the government making a big deal out of it, the local communities can make a big deal. Okay, Mole National Park. National Park in Ghana was started by the people before the government adopted it. Because the people decided to want to start protecting the animals. So my point here is this: this whole tourism potential and all of that cannot be achieved if the people, if Nigerians don't begin to connect with it. So the government can do so much, but the people can do so much more. And with the tourism in itself, there is, with the Minister of Art. Art in itself, we go to Ghana Art Market, we go to Benin Art Market, we go to Togo Art Market. How many art markets do we have? One in Lekki.
And it's for the big men, very expensive, but
where is the art market in the mainland? Where is the art market in Abuja? Okay, there is one opposite Silverbird Galleria.
But you don't even have one. Lagos is big, Badagry,
you understand?
Do
you understand? So things like that have to be replicated, where people can buy souvenirs and art as a tourist. Now, Minister for Art, Culture. Now, how do we celebrate this culture? Voodoo Day held in Ouidah just last month.
Yeah, Ouidah, yeah.
In Ouidah. Voodoo Day held in Ouidah. It was a big deal. It was branded. A month before, there were flyers, etc., banners all over the place. What cultures do we celebrate? There is Isheshe Day in Nigeria. But with Isheshe Day, which is the traditional guys, but with Isheshe Day, it's done like one other
ritual.
You know, everybody just makes it look funny. How can you make that celebrate culture? Because there is a place we are coming from. Before Christianity and Islam came into the picture, we have history. Africa has history before the white men. So let us not make the history of Nigeria start after colonialism. So we need to begin to tell these stories far beyond the colonial era. And that's where the people themselves have to be ready to tell the tale. The people themselves have to be ready to tell. So even if government is playing lip service to the whole tourism potential, the people can come together and begin to adopt their local attractions and begin to sell it. You know, one last thing, if you go to Port Novo, there is this walk they do now where you walk around Port Novo, guys will take you around, and they charge as much as 7,000 CFA per head. 7,000 CFA is almost 25,000 naira. What are they taking you through? Yes, taking you through history, tradition, and all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, we can replicate the same thing.
So what both of you have said now is that it is very possible to generate or create 2,000 or 2 million jobs in this country called Nigeria. But one, we need to get the buy-in of the people. Like you said, if you go into, I don't know how, what George thinks of that, Kobina thinks of that, that you go to a tourist site and the gate is flung open. There's nobody there to welcome you or even collect money. I don't know how you felt when you heard that being done here. And not at one place, not at two places, a couple of places in Nigeria. How often do you see that in Ghana? If you can do that in 30 seconds, we need to go down.
That's in Ghana, Lai Kulishele. I'm telling you, the children of the community alone are chasing one of the biggest challenge that the tourist site and facilities are facing is children who run around tourists and ask for money. Before you know it, there will be a de facto collector at the entrance. Ghana don't leave no room when it comes to milking and making that money. But I think that in the case of Nigeria, what basically needs to happen is the education. And I think that this is where everything ties back. The government agencies have to be deliberate. There has to be a partnership between the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Information, the Ministry of Culture, and all of that, that they go into the grassroots and educate the people on the potential, the power, and the transformation that this agenda for tourism can create. But let me say this real quick. Let us not be bamboozled and swinged around by the concept of tourism. For some of us, particularly those of us who are Pan-Africanists to the core, we feel that this is also another way of quote unquote exploitation. So it has to be managed properly to ensure that, because sex tourism, forgive me, it's early in the morning. Sex tourism going.
Unfortunately, we have to go, and we might need to do a part 2 of this. We've helped the minister by identifying what we need to do in Nigeria to ensure that everything turns out well, and we create 2 million jobs between now and 2027. It's not just about mere words. It's about the actions. Adéwùmí, Fábárebọ, and Kobina Edah, thank you so much for your time with us this morning.